Hi, welcome to part two. We're talking about the creation of the Richer Solutions brand. My name is Richard. I am the owner of Richer Solutions, and I'm delighted to be joined again by Brandon Wilson, the mastermind behind the visual identity of Richer Solutions. Hello, Brandon. How are you today, chap?
Hello, I'm doing very well. I'm excited to talk about this part of what we were working on.
Yeah, I think this is kind of, I was going to say the fun bit, but most of it was fun. And I think what's really interesting, going sort of almost back in time on how we created this in the last video, was just realizing the time period that we spent on it, but also how much we both had to bring to make it work. And it's really interesting. We're talking about the design systems, and we're talking about the different logos. And the one that we went with was all around the letter R. And it's kind of interesting because for me, a great logo and a great brand should tell stories and should really kind of resonate with the consumer and the customer, but also with the brand owner. And I kind of, when I saw that R, I was like, yeah, yep, that's me. And I tried to keep a poker face when you were showing me. It's kind of like, but inside I was like, this is really interesting and really cool. So just explain to me how you came to the art, because what was fascinating when you explained it, you suddenly pulled out your notebook and you had all these little sketches in of different R's.
I did. I did.
I still got the notebook.
Yeah, so it started here, and I just went to town on mostly the R, but I also have some other things there. And I'm just one of those people who, you draw, you sketch, just get it out of your head. If you don't like it, and do it again, maybe beat that thing to death, and then eventually you'll see something that really sticks with you. And I put a little check mark right next to the ones that I like, but I know I like that circle with the R. It's just something so simple and iconic in it. I remember, there's always a struggling process, at least for me, where I'm all over the place. I don't know where I'm gonna go, but I'll know when I see it. And just seeing a simple R, I'm like, you know what? When Richard was showing me his inspiration, brands that inspire him and all that stuff, they were so iconic and so fashionable. And of course, the guy likes wearing pink. He likes sneakers. He likes fashion icons. Like, those are the brands he loves to talk about in conversation. Shouldn't his logo reflect that as well? Like, there's nothing wrong with that. So that's kind of where I went with the R. I mean, it's just like, let this guy have a really cool R that he can have, And that was kind of the start of it. But I'm glad that you went with that one, honestly. It's probably the more fun one out of the three that I shared with you, too.
I think for me, so my business is all about helping people and getting across like my thinking and my personality to help people. And I thought what was so interesting about that logo and that whole solution was the amount of personality in it. Even sort of the length of the R was sort of almost exaggerated. I just kind of wanted to understand. I know you and I have talked about this at length before, but just explain to me how you tried to inject that personality into that R and into that logo, and then sort of, because I think it's really important that people understand that we talked about this before, how a logo and design and brand identity, if it has that thinking in it, you can tell stories about it. So it becomes more than just a simple surface pattern.
Right. Yeah, I wanted it to be a custom logo mark, no matter which one you picked. And even the R, I wasn't just going to type an R and then just like work off of that R that from another font. But when I crafted the R, I was messing around with the leg of the R, and I was like, you know what? Everything is so rigid. And I was like, but this leg here, there's so much opportunity. So I started just carving out that. And to me, it was like that's the human part of working with you. And it obviously had to be recognizable as the letter R. And knowing that I wanted to be fashionable, but it felt like the right path. The rest of it just felt very uniform. That's the part that's in like the letter B, the letter P. You know, you've seen this part in the alphabet before. So let's leave that. That is like in lockdown as far as like the shape of the R. Let's not mess with that. But what makes an R look different from a P is that leg, you know. So like that's really all I wanted to do. And I made so many versions of that leg of the R that I eventually landed on what I had. And then what was funny is like, all right, well, now that I have that and I kind of know what typeface that I want to use for the logo, or like the font that I want to use for the logo, I slid it together. And it was totally by accident when I saw the diamond, the gem in there or whatever. I was just like, ooh, Richard loves hidden stuff like that. Like, like that was a happy accident. So I adjusted the leg a little bit more to kind of allow me to have a symmetrical shape there. Um, but I thought that was it added like another layer to your brand identity. And you like stories. I think like for you, like a
Yeah.
brand can look good, but like it has to be able to tell a story. People can tell stories with the brands that they love and stuff like that. So for you, when you're working with people and you're telling your story of why you're doing what you do and all that stuff, I feel like your logo mark could at least also help you tell that story. And it really does. For all it is the R, but there's so much going on in it, and I knew you'd like that. So again, thanks for picking that one because it is a fun one for sure.
It was interesting because I showed it to one of my long term clients who I'm working with, and I think that they sent a video testimonial to help you with the design process, and they said that the art almost like my arm going round them, saying, "You know what, Richard's got you."
Yeah.
And when I said, "Right, zoom in on that, and you can see the hidden diamond," and he just smiled, and I think there's something where when everything aligns. And you can add that little bit of I can add that magic stardust to it, and I just thought it managed to do that, but also more importantly than that, because I think, there's an argument that sometimes people do it and it becomes a bit gimmicky. But then when you see something like the Amazon logo where it points A to Z, sorry, A to Z from our American friends, it tells the story. And I think with the logo that was created, I felt that it started to tell some of my story, the extended arm and leg of the R, the hidden diamond in there. And it's all about storytelling. It's all about personality because fundamentally that's my business. And I thought the fact that you saw that and pulled it out, I thought was fantastic. And that's why, in my opinion, the brand system works so well.
Yeah, and it does other things too. Like I know it's going to be used in Instagram, LinkedIn, social media platforms, and they always have the circle, that you put your logo in or your face in uh, when you make a post. But I made sure that the R could actually turn into the touching that outer circle too. So it has like some function in its form. Just just because like why does it touch, like there's a story there, or like you're trying to make a bubble for people, you're trying to like build their world, and but you're touching it. There's so many things you can do with it. I mean, honestly, I don't know if I even thought of it all the way through, but like you can do so much with that little art and like these little things. And like I know you're big on surface patterns, like just don't do it just because, but like part of it is abstract so that you can make your own story with it.
Yeah,
It's just like the happy accident that I had with it. I think it's a it's a very responsive logo mark. Like you can just do so much with it. And maybe right now there's a story for it, but then maybe like 5 years from now you can look at it and make a new story with this logo. Hopefully it's timeless. That was another thing. Like make sure that this thing is timeless and not looking like it was designed in 2023 or whatever. And
yeah, yeah. Because some things do sort of look dated. And one of the things that was really interesting is we talked a bit about the logo and parts of the brand identity, and there was something where we wanted it to be more than just a logo. We needed it to be a kit of parts, and we talked about that before. And one of the things that we discussed was the photography, and
Oh yeah.
it's really interesting because I love photography. I think it's one of those things that can make or break a business. I am not a great photographer, although I have got lucky on my iPhone with a couple of great pictures. But on the whole, I admire photography. It's not my skill set. And I thought it was really interesting when you said, right, we need a set of pictures that really bring out your personality. Oh, and I want them to be in black and white.
Right.
Just explain
I
how
know.
you
I'm
came
like,
to
I think I
that
told you
thinking.
that during the design system. I was like, you're a
Yeah.
square. You're gonna have like black and white images, but that's really just based on your concern of knowing yourself and knowing what you can and can't do with your brand identity, and you don't want to ruin it. You want to respect what I design and just follow the system. And for me, it's like, okay, I already know the brands that he really likes that influence him. I think there's an opportunity where we can go traditional black and white, but it'll also be easier for him. He doesn't have to worry about anything really when you take away the color. You know, you can it's black and white. That's it. You don't have to worry about saturation, contrast. You know, sometimes people put images next to other images and they're just color corrected differently. But black and white will always pair well with anything within reason. So I just thought it was safe, as far as like not safe as in I'm cutting corners on the design process, but safe for you. I wanted you to have a design that you could run with and not F up, you know, after I hand it over to you. So black and white, again, is timeless. I went on Pinterest. I found examples of, you know, of like, I think I use like celebrities like in really cool shots. I'm like, I think you could do this. These are very casual. Like, I think you could do this. They'll be professional, but they'll reflect a personality, and then popping color in some way. You know, I know you had you probably want to start talking about working with Eugene, but like just like using props and like other things around you to have the color and like kind of stand out within the black and white. And again, going back to the color palette that we went with, I mean, anybody that knows Richard he's just full of energy and ideas and positivity that there has to be color. But if we're going black and white images, how do we bring that in? It can't just be on like his buttons on his website or whatever. But no, it's like it's on his sneakers. It's all these things. It's so, and we've already started doing that with your social media. I know this is still recent after your brand identity, you know,
Yeah.
completed, but we're doing this right now in your content, and it's great. I know we'll be talking to Elizabeth eventually about all the Giphy stuff, but you can see how she's using the colors with your black and white images and stuff like that. So there's
Uh,
a lot going on.
it's funny when you say that, and it brings me back to those conversations that we had. And I think the black and white gives the structure to things, and I think the pops of color brings in the personality. And I thought what was really interesting was of all the things we did, I'm a pretty confident guy. I must admit, the photo shoot was one of those things that
Man,
really worried me. I
you
was
were
nervous.
well, you could talk about. You were
I,
like so nervous, but I
and
don't, I
I'm
mean,
not a nervous person at all, but this terrified me. And we did we worked with a great photographer, Eugenie Frankie, and we had a Zoom call to discuss like a pre-shoot meetup, um, which was great because I think we got to discuss sort of some of the shots that we were looking for, but also um, you two were talking very much. Okay, how do we pull Richard's personality out? And I think what's really interesting about photography is there's so many shots that if you've ever worked in design, or actually everybody can have an opinion, but you see shots of people and they're just really stiff and almost it's like it's quite painful. And I think a really great set of photographs not only sells products but helps people understand the personality of people they might be working with. and I really felt on that pre-call that the pair of you sort of almost got that over to each other, and I was really confident that you guys had achieved that. And then I sort of went to the studio with Eugene and his assistant, and I must admit, I was properly terrified that
I
we
could
had
tell in
a
the first
morning shoot.
photos. I could see how stiff you were. But we talked about this because what was great about the call with Eugene was we hit it off right away. Like at that point, we had everything pretty much figured out. We had the
Yeah,
logo, the color, we had the art direction. We knew everything that we wanted to do was onboarding him. Yes, you had history with him, so he kind of knew you as a person. So he kind of knew what to be capturing. So that kind of helps. But understanding the experience that you're going through, and we said, yeah, we're gonna just take photo, like there'll be photos in the beginning and you're gonna be stiff and you're gonna hate it, and but like relax. And he told you that in person, like just relax, just don't even worry about me. I'm just gonna be taking photos and all that stuff, and just get comfortable with it. But once you get through that, you can see a big change in your confidence in the imagery. And it was a
yeah.
lot of photos. I mean, the guy took what, 1,000 photos or something. I mean, it was so many photos.
And some I
But
didn't even realize he was doing them.
what's that?
Some of the pictures I didn't even realize he was taking pictures at the time. Like he we were just chatting, and then without knowing it, he was taking pictures. And I think what's really interesting is I talk all the time about working with great people. And I think what was really interesting about the experience of working with Eugene was we knew the first few pictures were going to be really stiff and awkward.
You knew how the day was
And
going to go. I knew how your day was going to go. We all knew. We
oh,
knew you didn't
I
know. And then,
didn't.
right, because like this is the same thing with like the logos and like the night before, the anticipation. Like what am I going to see tomorrow? And all the feelings you're going through. And like I know you're going through those feelings. I know you're nervous, but you're excited, like. And Eugene, same thing. He knows that you're going through this. He knows that if after a while when you do this job, you should know what the other person's feeling. Like if you're working
Yeah,
with
yeah,
somebody and they're not understanding and having empathy for what you're going through, like there's probably somebody you should be working with. You should be working with somebody who understands what you're going through before you start doing it. I think it's a big part, and I think that's why everything was so smooth for you, is because we all knew you and we knew what you were going through, but we also had all this stuff figured out before we got other people onboarded. They knew the direction. So it's just like, I'm not the photographer, you are. So, let's talk about some of the shots that we want to capture. And instantly Eugene's like, well, what about this prop? What about this? What about that? And it wasn't like counter ideas. It wasn't like, did you think about this? And let's do this instead of this. It was more like, I got it. Now let's add on to it. And then he handed it back to me, and I'm like, and everybody just kept adding on. It was never going two steps back, one step forward or anything like that. We're actually coming out like leaping and jumping over it. I felt like in the hour conversation that we had, I've worked with that guy before. And it was just,
yeah.
we just knew
And
each other's role and we just went for it. And it was awesome. Like we had the shot list ready to go, and it was great. And everything he said he was going to do, he did, and then some. It was incredible. I've never worked with this guy before, but I totally would again. It was just great working with somebody that was experienced. And then for you, yeah, you're nervous, but I felt like you had to have gotten some comfort seeing your team of creatives hopping
oh
in
yeah.
idea and just like this for your business and just adding on to it and like,
Oh,
you know,
it was exciting, and I think I talk about this a lot. You have to work with people you trust, and I think when you're doing photography, it can be something that can be very vulnerable. And I think what was brilliant about Eugene was, not just his technical expertise with lighting and filters and whatever camera stuff that he used, but it was actually his way of just generating conversation and bringing out the personality, which is your job as a designer and his job as a photographer. And when the pictures came back and we saw them, like I remember having a Zoom with you and I having a Zoom game. It was just really exciting. And then we had the choice of getting the pictures down to what's on the website. But we've got hundreds of pictures that we're going to be using across social media. And what was so positive was that what we set out to do, not only did we achieve it, but we went above and beyond it. And we went above and beyond it because there was the foundation of the idea, working with great people and trust. And for me, that was a fantastic platform to deliver what we were trying to do.
Yeah, because I mean, I'll be honest, I when I got the folder sent to me and I opened it up, I was like, all right, everything we talked about sounded awesome. Let's see what these guys pulled off. Because I'm in the United States. You guys are over there in UK.
Hey,
I'm just
it
like,
was funny.
yeah, the
Just
time
for
was
perspective, Brandon, right? We started the photo shoot about 8 in the morning, and we were done at 1. So 1 o'clock
time. Right.
is I think 9 a.m. your time.
Yeah, probably, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I like finished the photo shoot, and I'm driving home. It's about an hour home, and I think I called you and went, "We've done it," and you were like,
Right.
"Okay." Because obviously it's like first thing in the morning, your time is like breakfast time, and you're like, "You've done the photo shoot. I've only just had my breakfast." But it was almost like kind of that 5 hour gap, and then the
Yeah.
next day, I think maybe 1 or 2 days later, the photos came over.
Yeah, it was really quick, which is great. Keeps the
Yeah,
momentum going. Like, again, I can't stress that enough. Like, yeah, you don't want to move too fast, but don't move too slow, especially with creative things. Like, when people are in the zone, you don't want to stop and not think about it. You want to keep working on it. So, but anyways, yeah, I looked at the images and I was like, wow, Richard looks pretty rough in these images. He looks stiff, and I knew he was going to, but like, how long? So I'm going through them, and I'm like, oh, that's a good one. So then I like marked them like, all right, all right, all right. And then like little by little, then I get to the point of like, oh, shoot, now there's too many good ones, but which is great. So many different, there's like just so many different ideas that he had. And then what was cool is like you even saw this too, where like if you go through some of these images fast, they kind of animate a little bit, like you walking towards the camera actually became like it. So it's like, hey, Elizabeth, somebody who's working with Giphies with still animating still
go
images,
play.
go play, right? You know what you're working with and the colors and all that stuff, but like other than that, like this is your area, go do it and stuff like that. But I was already brainstorming before it was done, looking through the images. I was like, thank God. Because I've gotten images that sent to me before from shoots I wasn't part of, and I explained what I needed for like a website or whatever. And I'm digging through what I can salvage, like, oh, blah blah blah. Where this luckily was not that. It was actually too many good
It,
ones.
too many.
Too
Too
many good ones. And it sounds lame to say like, oh, worry, but no, really, it
and
was, and it's just different because like I'm literally in another country and I'm in a different time zone, and I was unsure of what we talked about would actually come to fruition. Thank God I did, because you said it before, but you're as good as your imagery sometimes, I think. Like really
yeah.
good imagery helps. It really does. So
And,
that was
and I think you and I both came from that belief, and that's why I knew working with Eugene, who is I think, one of Britain's top photographers. He absolutely nailed it. So thank you,
yeah.
Eugene. And it's funny talking about photography, because I think whilst that's added so much to the brand identity and to the website, but it was also that kind of, we knew we had the imagery, then it came to copy. And I must admit,
Oh
it's
yeah.
so much easier writing about other people than yourself. And we managed to find an incredible copywriter. And again, I think we had a Zoom call to set it up. So let's talk about Anastasia Ward, who, we had a Zoom call, and we were sort of going through the brand DNA and what we were trying to achieve. And you were chatting to her, and again, she's 5 time zones to like that way for you.
Mhm.
What did you make of that conversation, and what did you make of what came out of that conversation?
Uh, to me, it was just another person with an awesome accent. I was like, this is great. I love this. I got to work with more non-Americans. This is great. Um, Her personality was excellent. Such a nice person. Totally, totally what I expect, like an experienced copywriter to be like, instantly was brainstorming, which is another good sign. I was like, all right, because I had like some things that I can write headlines. It's something that I do with copywriting. I don't do too much like writing actual like paragraphs and stuff like that, but after a while, yeah, as a designer, you do need to start writing stuff. And but anyways, I had some headlines, because like I'm thinking like they gotta be short, sweet, all caps, tight, like lettering and stuff like that, and then have these are like things that like Richard might say, and one of them was like, "Don't be boring," and that's I think on the top of your website right now. I was like, "Don't be boring." Like that is what Richard's tagline is, his unofficial tagline. Don't be boring. She loved that, and she used like that as like I feel like as her anchor because she's like that is him.
Yeah,
That's all like that stuff like that. Can you do that? Can you do that? And do it, in this context, in this context. She's like, and she's already like putting that stuff together. And then I was antsy because I've had experiences with copywriters where they take forever, and um, she took it wasn't long, but it wasn't short either. It wasn't like the next day I had stuff, but it was just the right amount of time. And I'm like, all right, I mean, this really could set us back because like we're leaning on the copywriting. We got the imagery, we've got the visual, we got everything done. So what does this sound like? What is this? How am I gonna read this? And it was great. Again, just another person added to the team who added to what I had. It wasn't like, well, I was working on this and I had this other idea. So what if I'm like, we don't have what ifs. There's no, I mean, I'm welcome to your ideas, but like, that's not what we talked about. And again, just this another person who just complimented what you and I have already accomplished so far. So, and you had experience working with Anastasia before,
yeah,
correct?
I've had experience of working with Anastasia, and I think what's really interesting is, and I think it's one of those themes that runs through this, that you and I have built up a relationship. I've had a relationship with Eugene for over 10 years. I've known Anastasia for a couple of years, and I think that kind of knowledge and insight and that kind of honesty and trust has allowed me to get to a place where I've got something that I'm really proud of. And when Anastasia sent the copy through and I read it, and I was like, I can't wait to share this with Brandon because this is really cool.
Oh, I
And not
I
only
chuckled. It was so your
yeah,
personality. And that's the whole
yes,
driving force is like we gotta get his personality. I mean, he's once
that's
he's
why
in
people work with
but
me.
he's good.
That's
It's just yeah, we just gotta get him looking and sounding like himself. It was really good. Yeah, I know. I was smiling. I was like, because I'm not uptight, but when I'm assigned the role of leading the creative in this helping like this vision, it's especially when I'm having other like two people helping me with this one. I don't know. You just especially when I've never met with them before, like it's we're doing it. We're doing it live. We're doing it live, and I was just like, man, this could go off the rails. It could. I was trusting you because you already vetted these people out. And it's just Brandon, sit down with them, communicate what we're trying to do, and it just worked. It was like putting together the team. And I
yeah,
love the
and
I love the headline you made for this concept, which was it takes a village to build a brand, right? Is that
yeah,
yeah.
and I believe that, and I believe that, and I think all the different elements that have come together from the market research that we talked about last time. I had a load of clients send me video testimonials to help you understand what it's like to work with me.
Yeah,
It
that was nice.
was the photography, it's the copy, it's the giffies, which I know we're going to talk about in our next session, um, and as well as all the bits that you did. And one of the things you and I talk about a lot is how do you get the best from a designer, and how can you be a great client? And I think the two things are actually, I think the two things, there's a lot of overlap. And I think one of the things that I've certainly got from this process is a mixture of trust and relationship. And those things go across all the people that have helped the village that's helped build this brand. It's all been about trust and relationship. But also I think there's a little bit where I talk about this all the time. You've got to work with great people, But also, if you're going to work with great people, then allow them to be great people. Give them the freedom to do it, which is, and I could understand a little bit why you're like, well, I've not worked with Anastasia. She's 5 time zones across the Atlantic Ocean. The same with Eugene, and I think it's really interesting that the themes, you know, Eugene was given a brief, but also the freedom to deliver it. Anastasia, the same. This is the kind of areas that we want content on, but you've got the freedom of doing it, and here's Richard's DNA to help you with it. I don't know how you feel about this topic of how to be a good
Well,
designer and how to be a good client.
trusting the people you hired is crucial. Um, but I also think there's an advantage that you have because of your background. You have had a career working with people like us, so you know what to look for. You know when somebody's BSing or whatever, or like they're saying yeah, but they really don't understand what's being asked of them or something like that. So I think we all did a great job working with you because you knew exactly how to get the best out of us. You worked with our type before. I think that is a very hard thing for people to understand. I get it. I mean,
Yeah,
I have clients right now who, I get it. You haven't really done this before, so you're unsure and and all that stuff, and it's so natural. This isn't typical where I work with somebody like you who understands exactly what I'm trying to do, and which made it so much easier. But I think you still, even though Richard's not like everyone else, the trust is a big thing, and I mean, I appreciated it, and it took a layer of stress off of me so that I could focus that energy on making the best work I could, and not worrying about you. I mean, I'm worried about it, but it just, not that extra layer of like, I gotta explain, I gotta remind him what I'm trying to do. You got it. And if you didn't get it, you still trusted me, even with the design system, calling you a square. I'm like, just hear me out. And you just like, yeah, I just like tell me
I have
exactly
forgiven
what
you.
you did, and you got over it. You understood it, and you were just like, yeah,
Yeah.
just I need you to explain it to me. But I was being cheeky with all that. Anyways, I was trying to get a rise out of you, but
Oh, you did. I think that it's really interesting. Yeah, look, I'm really lucky. I've worked in design before, but I think for people that haven't worked in design, there's almost a little bit where, for me, if you're going to work with an expert, ask them their opinion. Challenge them, obviously, but ask them their opinion and almost try, how do you get the best out of them? And it's almost in the way that, if you're working with, I don't know, a kitchen designer, and you've got an idea for roughly what you want, but you turn around to the kitchen designer and say, well, what do you think? And they turn around and say, well, actually, if you use this effect, this effect, this effect, it will help you achieve this. And I think there's this little bit where it's great to have a vision about what you want, but there's also a little bit where you have to trust experts to be able to take you from there to there. And all the people that I worked on in this project were given trust and freedom. And I think this is kind of my sort of one of my takeouts for people that are watching this, that research the people you're going to work with, get to know them, get that bond with them, and then give them the freedom and your trust, and they will do great stuff for you. And I think there's also that little bit where you and I have talked about this. How do you be a good client, other than paying on time? And I think there is that bit where, we put all, we always expect the people we work with to do a good job, if whether they're a supplier or whatever. But I always think there's almost a little bit like when you go to a party, how do you be a good guest? And I think there's a little bit, how do you be a good client? And I think we manage this by open communication, the bit where, we could talk quite truthfully. It was like, forget the time zone because that was easy enough to deal with. It was almost the fact that, well, actually, we can just message, we can communicate.
oh
But I
yeah,
think
you're
it's
always.
really, I think it's also
Some
really
people are weird
important to be a
about
good
that.
client.
You can't talk too much when you're working with them. Like I like chatting. I mean, I don't know. I feel like it keeps us in focus. Like you came to me with ideas and I said no, and that was it. Like, all right. Like I appreciate you being honest. Like yeah, that. Or I'll say like, yeah, yes, but that'll push this out of priority? You know, do you think that's more important? Like, nope. You know, like, and that's fine. Like how hard is it to just have a chat and just say yes or no to things and then move on? Like that, I also think. I mean, yes, we're friends, so we can talk to each other any way we want. But I still feel like you can have. I mean, if you're the client and you're working with somebody that you're hiring out, like, and especially a creative, just remember what the creative person is being asked to do. Are you distracting them? And if you're not, if you genuinely think this is something we're talking about, like you should be able to have a quick conversation. Like we use Instagram chat, you know,
Yeah.
and I would just send images through Instagram and we would just chat. We still do this. And I did that this morning for something for this stuff. And like just keep the conversation going. Like, yeah, oh, but what about the hour? Blah, 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 you know, I get that, you know your own process, but like I don't need Richard to wait in the dark because, and I'm all about keeping motivation because like I will burn out on an idea as well. Like I might love working on Richard's stuff, but like if I don't get in front of him soon enough, or if he can't meet with me soon enough, I'm gonna lose the excitement as well. I'm human. Like I'm gonna look for the next project then. So let's keep it going. You like just don't
I
burn
think you need
yourself
the
out.
buzz.
Don't wait. Yeah. So like I don't know. There's a lot of things that we did that I thought like just like the little things that helped this come together. But trust was a big thing, keeping the focus, being honest with each other, saying yes and no to things,
Yeah.
an open communication, no games. You know, here's what I'm paying you for, and then I'm like, and this is what you're getting, and that's it. And everything we just remind ourselves like the timeline, right? You knew the timeline. You knew what I told you I was going to make you, and everything that we did was based on hitting that goal.
And we did. And I think one of the things that I guess I didn't expect when I started this process um, was what it would give me at the end. And
Confidence. Dude, your
the
confidence
oh yeah,
was
I
you
mean
were like a
we
different
talked.
you were like not an emotional wreck, but you were just like Brandon, like this means so much to me. I really need to get this done. This is before anything is made. It's just like I need to look like myself. I want to feel like myself, and I'm just not there. And like I don't want to go far into 2023 looking like this. And then at the end, you're like, I feel like I got a brand new suit on. I feel
Yeah,
so confident because I know I
pink.
can talk, but it just didn't like how I looked, you know?
Yeah,
And,
and I think it's always one of those things when you start one of these things, you don't always know what you're going to get at the end. So we knew visually we would have, I don't know, LinkedIn, website, etc., etc., etc. We knew we'd have those things. What I didn't expect was to see photographs of myself and go, "Whoa, wow!" To see, to just feel so confident in. I've always been confident in my proposition, but the actual look and feel of it, and also I really enjoyed working with you. Like it was when we had our Zooms and our sessions. I wouldn't say it felt like it didn't really feel like work. It just felt like we're creating something that's going to like almost be rocket fuel for my business. And what's so interesting, reflecting back on it, is at the end of it, it's sort of it was very very emotional launching it.
but the people you know is pretty intimidating. You're like talking to, I don't know, I don't want to name anybody, but like you're like the head of like this brand for like marketing or something like that. Looked at the website in the staging, right? It wasn't
Oh
live
yeah,
yet.
yeah,
Like, like this, liked everything, very impressive, but had like this feedback. And I had to like internalize that and go, it's just a title. It's just a title. This is still a person within my world. And like, how much do I like? I value the feedback, but how much of that is this person saying that I need to do, or like just is there like read between the lines what they're saying? And that's what it really was. And I'm glad that like you get that feedback because at first, like a younger me would have been like just done exactly what that person said, and then but I thought about it. I sat on it for like a day or two, and then I came back and I said, "Here's what I think I'm going to do." And that's where it was like those dot with the arrows,
yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
the site. So if anybody goes to the website, they could see. where I started adding color. That was the feedback, like adding a little bit, find places to add color. And they had, like, I think a specific idea, but um, I more or less ignored it. Nah, that's not true, but I extracted what they were saying, and then I applied it the way I thought felt like it was more on brand. I just needed somebody, yeah, like that was good feedback. Um, all to say, really, it's just, like these are these are big name people with tons of experience, and
Yeah,
I get to weigh their information and be like, yeah, it's good. I believe I could do half of what you're saying, and get that right, and you being like, okay, Brandon, like, because like, I don't know if you expected me to just do exactly what they said or wanted, but I pushed back a little bit and said, here's what I'm going to do with that feedback, because I think there's some truth to it, and that's all it was. And you trusted me. Like, I was like, man, this could be the moment where, like, Richard is like, Brandon, but this person is a big deal, and but you trusted me, and you actually liked what I came up with, which was great,
yeah,
and it
and
took a day or two to kind of get around it. But again, it's all about that trust.
teamwork, but teamwork,
Yeah, and
and
there's no
what
ego. It wasn't like, oh, whatever. And that person either, it was actually great.
and just some sort of final thoughts that I obviously put it up on LinkedIn, and over 100 comments. I mean, from people across the world, and just this huge kind of warmth towards what we've achieved. And
Oh yeah.
we talked about
This
how my
is
confidence,
you. This
yeah,
is you. This
but
yeah, it was
and,
great.
what was great was sharing these with you, and
Yeah.
it just felt like, do you know what, the hours that we put into it, that kind of, obviously internally my confidence is massively up with the look and feel of it. But when you have that external validation from people that, I really respect in the industry of marketing, some really, really big players globally commenting on it. And it is
Yeah.
in such a positive way. I think it's, a really nice validation of what we've done, but not just those guys, friends and family, and my communities, my business communities. It's a really, really nice feeling, and it's something that I didn't budget for when I started this process. I don't think either of us did. It's always nice when somebody goes, well, that looks good, but that warmth that is going to translate into sales over the next, and new clients over the next 12 to 18 months. That that's sort of key to this, I think. I mean, you've seen the feedback. A lot of it's directed to you, well, to you and I, and obviously your communities
Yeah.
responded to it as well.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, it's all I want. It's so lame when a designer says, this is why I do it. But it's a big part why I do it by myself, why I'm on my own now, because I wanted to have more of an intimate relationship with the projects I worked on. And I love being part of a team too. Don't get me wrong. I also like being on my own. I like both, and you gave me the opportunity. Um, and it was great. There's like zero complaints, and we're actually here we are making content out of it, because
Yeah,
we've just been on these projects so many times. So, like, man, to do it for ourselves is like, it's like we
and to be
probably
able to
should.
talk about it. I mean that's the point of these videos that we're making, is to try and, help people that are going to go through this process to understand it from both the designer and the client's perspective, and to hopefully give some hints and tips,
There was like
or just our
different
thoughts on it.
big holidays. You had like a friend pass away. You have family things going on. There's so many things happening throughout this that could have easily derailed and killed motivation, but it never did, because it was always like the thing that we were excited about after like a thing in life happened, connecting. Where are we on this? And
Yeah, yeah.
we've been in a project where they're dragging, like, ooh, motivation's starting to go. We're starting to like, let's wrap it up mode.
We've all been
Like,
on them.
We weren't. We were just like wrapped up that phase onto this phase. Boom, go on to this phase, and all that stuff, and it was great.
Yeah,
It was a great experience. Yes,
and we've still got a little bit more to do, and we've got a little bit more to do on the social media templates and stuff, and
that
we're
never
working
ends.
on that at the moment. And I just think what I hope people who are watching this have got from it is that it can be a really enjoyable process. There's so much that you can take from this that is not what you expect, and the bit that you don't expect is the enjoyment, but also the confidence. Like we talked about it. I said to you on, it feels like I'm wearing a new suit,
Mm.
and that kind of confidence that comes from having something that is really good. And it goes back to the point that I make to so many people I work with, just work with experts, work with the best, and trust the people you work with. If you don't trust the people you're working with, then find somebody else that you do trust working with. And that's certainly some of my conclusions from this project. And it's been great. We've laughed
Yeah.
a lot as well. We have laughed a lot.
Oh, almost every meeting started with 30 minutes of us just chatting about Star Wars or anything, movies, you know, but that I think that it's still two people talking to each other. I mean, there is business to be
Yeah,
done. Some people are busier than others, but like I think it's important to make time to sit down and remember that you're still talking to somebody. And we'll get to that stuff. And sometimes we are pretty quick to get in and get out, but most of the time it was even before we recorded this, we chatted for
yeah.
40 minutes on work, life, whatever, and get you comfortable because that way when you're with that person, again, we're friends, but like you can just sit down and really have a good conversation and stay focused and there's no walls between us. We're just,
No, just
shitting.
the Atlantic Ocean, but we'll skip over that. One day,
Yep.
one day. So the next video that we're going to do, we're going to talk about engagement with the brand, and we work with another designer called Elizabeth Doss, and we look forward to sort of sharing some of the really interesting interpretations of the brand that she's done. We hope you've enjoyed this video. We've certainly enjoyed making the website and hanging out. So thank you very much, Brandon.